Hello ARMY. Welcome back to Zone Taekook channel. ARMY, don't scroll. Don't look away because what you're about to see might change the way you see Taehyung and Jungkook forever. Imagine this. A concert venue filled with anticipation, fans gathering, energy building. Everything looking normal on the surface. But then something unexpected happens. Jungkook suddenly sits down. Not as a joke, not casually, but in a way that makes you question everything. And before anyone can even understand what's going on, Taehyung steps closer. Not loudly, not dramatically, but intentionally. What did he say? What did Jungkook feel in that exact moment? And why does it look like something deeper was happening between them? This isn't just about a sound check. This isn't just another casual appearance. There's a detail here, a feeling, a moment that ARMY all around the world can't stop talking about. Some say it's nothing. Some say it's everything. But the real question is, what do you see? Stay with me because in this video we're going to break down every second, every glance, every movement that fans believe reveals a hidden story between Taehyung and Jungkook. A story that wasn't meant to be obvious, but somehow we all felt it. So before you decide what really happened, watch this until the end, because this moment isn't as simple as it looks. Was that moment real? Or was it something they didn't want anyone to notice? Because what ARMY witnessed that day wasn't just another casual visit. It wasn't just two global superstars stepping into a concert venue. And it definitely didn't feel like a simple soundcheck. There was something in the air. Something heavy, something emotional, something off. Jungkook sitting down, Taehyung standing beside him. A quiet gesture of encouragement that sent the entire fandom into chaos. And now one question refuses to go away. What actually happened between Taehyung and Jungkook that day? The moment began innocently. At least that's how it looked on the surface. Reports started circulating early in the morning that BTS members, specifically Jungkook and Taehyung, had been spotted near a major concert venue. Fans initially assumed it was routine, a rehearsal, a quick check, maybe preparation for an upcoming stage. But then the video surfaced. Grainy at first, shaky, filmed from a distance, but clear enough to ignite a storm. Jungkook wasn't standing. He was sitting. Not casually, not relaxed, but in a way that made fans pause. His posture wasn't the confident stance ARMY had grown used to. It was quieter. He looked deep in thought. Or was it exhaustion? Or something else entirely? And then Taehyung appeared beside him. No loud entrance, no dramatic gesture, just presence. But what happened next is what changed everything. Taehyung leaned slightly toward Jungkook. Not enough to make it obvious, not enough for casual viewers to question it, but enough for ARMY, who notice everything, to feel it instantly. A subtle gesture, a quiet word. A moment that looked small but felt enormous. Was he comforting him, encouraging him, or trying to say something that couldn't be said out loud? Jungkook's reaction told its own story. He didn't immediately stand. He didn't brush it off. He stayed there for a moment longer, as if whatever Taehyung said mattered. And that's when the theories began. Was Jungkook overwhelmed? Was something wrong behind the scenes? Or was this simply a private moment that fans were never supposed to see? As more clips surfaced, the atmosphere of that day became both clearer and more confusing. The venue itself was already filled with energy. Even without a confirmed event, ARMY had gathered in large numbers after hearing rumors of BTS members visiting. The crowd wasn't just loud, it was overwhelming. Cheers echoed through the area. Phones were raised. Names were shouted, Jungkook, Taehyung. The excitement was undeniable. The love was real. But inside that noise, something didn't match. While fans were celebrating, the interaction between Jungkook and Taehyung felt restrained. Not distant, but careful. And ARMY noticed immediately. Why didn't Jungkook respond as energetically as usual? Why did Taehyung seem more focused on him than the crowd? Why did that one moment, him sitting, Taehyung leaning in, feel more important than everything else happening around them? Was this really just a sound check or something deeper? Some fans believe the answer lies in timing. This appearance didn't come out of nowhere. It followed days, some say weeks, of subtle changes. Less interaction, fewer shared moments, a noticeable shift that only the most attentive fans had begun to question. And now suddenly here they were, together but not quite the same. Could this have been their way of reconnecting? Or was it something orchestrated to reassure fans? Another theory quickly gained traction. What if this wasn't spontaneous at all? What if the visit, the timing, the visibility was intentional? Some ARMY believe this could have been a controlled appearance. A moment designed to show unity, to calm speculation, to send a message without saying anything directly. But if that's true, why did it feel so emotional? Why did Jungkook look like he needed that moment? And why did Taehyung's gesture feel so genuine? As the day continued, more details emerged. Witnesses described Jungkook as quieter than usual, not disengaged, but not fully present either. Meanwhile, Taehyung stayed close. Not overly protective, not obvious, but consistently near. A glance here, a step there, always within reach. Some called it care, others called it concern. Then came the biggest question. If this was just a soundcheck, why did it feel like so much more? Soundchecks are routine, technical, predictable. But nothing about this felt routine. Not Jungkook sitting like that. Not Taehyung's quiet encouragement. Not the emotional reaction from fans. And definitely not the silence that followed. Because neither Jungkook nor Taehyung addressed it. No explanation, no clarification, just silence. And in that silence, the mystery grew louder. But then another clip surfaced, and suddenly everything felt different. What if that moment wasn't the beginning, but the aftermath of something we didn't see? In this version, filmed minutes before Jungkook sat down, both of them were standing close, but not interacting. No laughter, no conversation, just silence. And for longtime fans, that detail mattered more than anything. There was always something between them. A glance, a smile, a shared reaction. But here there was a gap. Not physical, emotional. So what changed in those few minutes? Fans began analyzing everything. The way Jungkook's shoulders dropped, the way his head tilted, the moment he avoided eye contact. Many now call it the moment. The point where something shifted. And then Taehyung's reaction. He didn't leave. He didn't move away. He stayed close, watching, waiting. That subtle lean, that quiet connection, it no longer felt random. It felt intentional, like he already knew something was wrong before anyone else noticed. Eventually, Jungkook stood up again. Not dramatically, but noticeably. The energy shifted. He looked more composed, more present. Taehyung was still there, still close. And then came a glance. Quick, almost unnoticeable, but it happened. And for ARMY, that glance meant everything. It felt like whatever had just happened had passed, or at least had been understood between them without words. But the mystery didn't end there. Fans began noticing something else. The staff. In multiple clips, staff members appeared more alert than usual. Some were communicating through earpieces. Others seemed to be watching Jungkook and Taehyung closely. One fan even described a brief pause in activity right after Jungkook sat down, as if something had been signaled. Was it coincidence? Or was it connected? The sequence felt too precise. A moment of stillness, staff awareness, a quiet interaction, an emotional shift, then a return to normal. Almost like a scene, but without context, without explanation. And maybe that's why it matters. Because if those fan cams hadn't captured it, if ARMY hadn't analyzed it, would anyone have noticed? Or would it have passed as just another routine moment? Even now, discussions continue. New angles, new interpretations, endless analysis, but still no answers. Just silence. So now the question remains. Was Jungkook's moment simply exhaustion, or something deeper? Was Taehyung's presence just support, or something more intentional? And what about everything happening around them? One thing is certain, that day wasn't ordinary. It wasn't just a sound check. It was a moment filled with emotion, subtlety, and unanswered questions. A moment that lingers not because of what we saw, but because of what we didn't. And maybe that's the real story. So what really happened between Jungkook and Taehyung that day? And why does it feel like we've only seen half of it? And just when it seemed like the story had reached its peak, another layer began to unfold. One that made everything even more difficult to ignore. Because beyond the visible gestures, beyond the silence and subtle exchanges, there was a feeling that something had already happened before any camera started recording. The kind of moment that doesn't begin when we see it, but long before, hidden from the public eye. What if what ARMY witnessed wasn't the main event, but only the aftermath? A quiet resolution to something unseen. Because when you look closely, the energy doesn't feel like confusion, it feels like recovery. Jungkook sitting, not in shock but in stillness. Taehyung approaching, not with surprise but with awareness. as if both of them already understood what was happening, even if no one else did. And that changes everything. Because if this moment wasn't spontaneous, then it carries intention. Not the kind that's staged for the public, but the kind that exists between two people who don't need words to communicate. A shared understanding, a silent conversation happening in plain sight, yet invisible to everyone except those who were truly paying attention. ARMY has always believed that some of the strongest connections aren't the ones that are shown openly, but the ones that appear in the smallest details. The pauses, the glances, the decisions to stay instead of walk away. And in this moment, Taehyung chose to stay. Not just physically, but emotionally present in a way that felt grounding. So maybe the real question isn't what happened in that exact second, but what led to it. What built up to that stillness, that quiet exchange, that unspoken moment that somehow carried so much weight. Because moments like this don't just appear out of nowhere. They come from something deeper, something that doesn't need to be explained to be felt. And perhaps that's why this moment continues to stay with ARMY. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. But even with all these interpretations, one thing continues to stand out: the silence from both sides. No clarification, no behind-the-scenes explanation, no attempt to address what fans have been endlessly discussing. And that silence doesn't close the story. Instead, it keeps it alive. Because in a world where almost everything is documented, explained, and shared instantly, a moment like this feels rare. Unfiltered, uncontrolled, something that slipped through without intention, yet carried a weight that no scripted appearance could ever replicate. And maybe that's exactly why ARMY can't stop going back to it. Every replay reveals something new. A detail that felt insignificant at first suddenly becomes meaningful. The way Jungkook adjusted his posture, the timing of Taehyung's movement, the distance between them before, and the closeness after. It all starts to form a pattern, one that feels too precise to be coincidence, yet too subtle to be confirmed. And still, no matter how many times it's analyzed, the truth remains just out of reach. Some fans have started to step back, choosing not to define the moment, but simply to appreciate it for what it was. Because not every connection needs to be explained. Not every emotion needs to be labeled. Sometimes what matters most is what's felt, not what's proven. And maybe that's the quiet message hidden within everything that happened that day. That not all moments are meant to be understood by everyone. That some things exist only between the people experiencing them. And that even in the middle of a crowded venue surrounded by noise, cameras, and expectations, there can still be a space where something real happens. Something honest, something unspoken, something that doesn't need an audience to be meaningful. So whether this was a simple moment of exhaustion, a gesture of support, or something deeper that fans may never fully understand, it has already left its mark. Not just as a viral clip, but as a feeling that continues to resonate. And perhaps in the end, that's all it was ever meant to be. A moment, quiet, fleeting, and almost invisible, yet powerful enough to make the entire world stop and wonder,